Hello, everyone. Welcome to our webinar today, Amplifying Youth Voices, Fostering Meaningful Youth Engagement and Participation. I would like to begin by acknowledging the traditional territories of Turtle Island. The sacred land on which we are gathered today has been a site of human activity for 15,000 years. We acknowledge that the land Akaisi is situated on, which is a traditional territory of many nations, including the Misagas of the Credit, the Anishinaabe, the Chippewa, the Haudenosaunee, and the Wendat people, and now is home to many diverse First Nation, Inuit, and Métis people. This territory was the subject of the dish with one spoon, Wampum Belt Covenant, an agreement between the Haudenosaunee and the allied nations to peacefully share and care for the resources around the Great Lakes. We also acknowledge that Toronto is covered by Treaty 13 with the Misagas of the Credit. Today's webinar objectives. We aim to explore the importance of giving youth a space for their voice to be heard and actively engage them in decision-making process. You will gain insight into the benefits of youth engagement, including the positive impact on personal development, community empowerment, and policy outcomes. Additionally, you will receive a comprehensive understanding on how the Center for Immigrant and Community Services youth team design and implement its youth programming, covering topics such as community needs assessment, program development, and the utilization of innovative approaches to address diverse challenges faced by youth. The webinar will discuss effective strategies and approaches to create inclusive environments that empower youth individuals to express their perspectives, contribute to social change, and shape their future. I would like to welcome Kevin Lee, Program Manager, and Victor Zhang, Youth Project Coordinator, Youth Services at the Center for Immigrant and Community Services. Let me introduce you to Kevin Lee, Youth Service Program Manager, who brings over 11 years of the leadership experience in various youth-focused roles, transforming from aquatic to settlement services. Kevin is driven by a passion to positively impact youth lives. He strives to provide critical support and resources, promoting the personal and social growth of immigrant youth. Keen on staying ahead of trends, Kevin continuously enhances his skills to develop innovative programs tailored to the unique needs of immigrant and marginalized youth. Victor Zhang, youth worker and youth project coordinator, specializes in youth employment support, arts programming, and youth-oriented social activism. With an academic background in gender and women's studies, he's been participating in various mental health and social justice initiatives focusing on queer youth, newcomers, as well as racialized communities. To connect knowledge production with community engagement, he's interested in arts-based, arts-informed methodology, particularly in the forms of screening, art, and theoretical exploration. Now, I will give the floor to Kevin and Victor. Please, you can share your screen and start your presentation. Thank you, everyone.
Perfect. Thank you, Tarana, for the wonderful explanation. So yeah, welcome everyone to our webinar. So as Tarana fabulously explained, my name is Kevin. I'm the program manager of the youth services at CICS. You may or may not know me from several other things that we do around the organization. But yeah, so I hope everyone is excited to learn about how youth engagement work and how we potentially give youth a space to actually voice out their opinions and stuff like that. So yeah, and myself and Victor are very happy and very honored to be at this OCASI webinar for today. So moving forward to our agenda for today, we have, first of all, we're going to go over the importance of youth engagement. And then we're going to go over our CICS youth team programming. And then we're going to talk a little bit about how our youth team approaches on youth engagement, because there's a lot of, there's a variety of ways to engage youth. And I just want to talk about, a few things about how we do it specifically to our approach that's effective and bring some examples so that you can probably bring it back to your own organizations to enhance your youth programming and stuff like that. And then we're going to do a small discussion activity because I assume, in some way, shape, or form, you might be a little bit tired from myself and Victor talking a lot. So perhaps you guys would like to talk, yourself amongst yourselves as well for the discussion activity. And then we're going to close. We're going to have a little bit of a closing after and give our contact information just in case you have any questions or concerns, and a quick Q&A session as well. Okay, just as a disclosure, if you have any questions, feel free to either raise your hand or you can also put it in the chat box so then we can answer your questions either there or just, when we're doing our, we can probably leave it towards maybe the end to answer those specific questions. Okay. All right, perfect. So again, just to give you an overview as to what this webinar will explore. So first of all, we're going to explore the significance of providing youth a platform for expression and involvement in decision-making, benefits of youth engagement, positive impact on personal development and community empowerment, overview of CICS youth team's approach to designing and implementing youth programming, coverage of community needs assessments, program development, and innovative solutions for diverse youth challenges, effective strategies for creating inclusive environments, as well as empowering youth to contribute to social change and shape their futures. So I know that's a big blurb, so we're going to have some key takeaways. First and foremost is how to effectively engage with youth, what we do at the CICS youth team, and how you can effectively design activities and workshops to engage with youth. Perfect. So just before we begin, we're just doing a quick icebreaker. So I was thinking, I forgot to add the do there. What do you personally think is important to youth development? Feel free to put a small explanation in the chat box. If there's anyone who'd like to speak in front of our group for today, that would be wonderful. You can raise your hand and feel free to unmute yourself. But you can also drop in the chat box, but I encourage everyone to speak as to how you think, what is important to a youth's development. Give a few seconds for people to raise their hands or put in the chat box. So Lisa in the chat box says, youth want to be seen and feel heard and have meaningful engagement. And yeah, I totally agree. That is a great, that's a great thing to, to have. For me, making meaningful connections is the most important for newcomer youth. Having a great support system, I agree with that. Anything else anyone would like to bring up? Knowledge. Yeah, I think youth go to school for that, but outside of school, I think other organizations would like to kind of learn how people would be engaged in the community outside of knowledge, but yes, that is definitely one great one. What I've seen lately is confidence building through life skills and workshop skills development. Structure and versatility, ownership, so 100%. Support and resources. Newcomer youth usually don't know what's available. Connecting them with support and resource at wider level is important. Perfect. Okay, I can't read all of those, but again, all of these are great suggestion points. Let me see if I can catch a few more. Thank you for the engagement, everyone. Let's see. I think one of the Vivian from Vivian Nguyen says, I think that one of the most important things in youth development is to provide a safe space for them to be themselves and to discover themselves without fear of shame or harsh judgment. Yeah, I agree with that as well. Talk a bit about that more in our presentation, but yes, relationship building. And last point I'm going to say is having the adults / support systems in their life recognizes their strength, agency, and capacity. I agree with that as well. Perfect. Thank you everyone for participating in the chat box. I think all of these are great points, and we'll cover more of those as to, how this would be included into our, as like an agency, how do we work with these newcomer youth, not just newcomer youth, I would say marginalized youth as well, and how we can enhance that in, in programming. So just moving forward. So again, the first part we're gonna go through is key pieces in youth engagement. So first thing I want to say is, why is youth engagement important? I want to go over this because, or Victor and I want to go through this, is because before we even go to any of the points that we do at CICS, we want to understand why youth engagement is important, not just because, youth all the time, they go to school, they go to places to hang out, but it's often hard to have youth engagement in a lot of school structures, especially if they don't join any, school clubs or any, school programs that are ran there. So, why is youth engagement important? And there's a few points I'd like to say here. The first point is empowerment and inclusion. So engaging youth empowers them to actively participate in community decision-making, fostering a sense of inclusion and ownership. So as many of you said in the chat box, definitely youth engagement is important because you would want them to, feel like they have a say in the community. I think that's a very important point, because if we decide everything for them as adults, as working adults in a professional setting, it's sometimes hard for them to feel like they are important in the community, which they are, because a lot of these youth are the future of, tomorrow, as a lot of us like to say. My second point is social cohesion. Youth engagement strengthens community bonds, promoting social cohesion, and creating a more connected and supported environment. So in that sense, what I mean by that is oftentimes, a lot of times when we have to go through these, we're engaged in reviews and stuff like that, we also want to make sure that they're connected with their community as well, and make sure they're not feeling isolated and building new bonds that way. So for example, just, as a precursor, a lot of the social cohesion happens between, making friends, right? Knowing the people around you. So when we do youth engagement, they meet other people so that they can make those future bonds later on. And my third point is addressing youth-specific issues. Youth engagement ensures that initiatives address issues directly affecting young people, promoting more effective and relevant solutions. So what I mean by that is oftentimes youth engagement not only includes them in the conversation, but also we actually give them a voice to kind of voice out what they need in that, in specific issues. So for example, a youth, and obviously a lot of youth have different specific needs. So one youth may need, academic support, and one might just need those life skills changes that they require, right? So addressing these youth-specific issues, not one youth is the same, and we want to make sure we cover all those issues out there, and that is why youth engagement is important. So I'm going to pass it over to Victor to repeat, to say the last 2 points.
Thank you, Kevin. So There are two more benefits in terms of youth engagement. The first one I want to address is about positive personal development. As we all know, like youth need to engage with the communities and to learn not just from the classroom, but also from a real life setting. And community opportunities and community projects will provide youth with opportunities for personal growth, skill development, and the cultivation of a strong work ethic. And we do see how youth improved and grew in the community projects we have been implementing in our programs. And last but not least, youth engagement can definitely enhance their skills in decision making. So by including youth in decision-making process, we ensure that those decisions reflect the needs and the aspirations of the entire community, since we believe youth are the future of our community, and they will be the builder and the stakeholders for our community development in the future. So by engaging youth in this process, we aim to foster a more inclusive and equitable society in this process. And then Kevin and I will share some personal success stories in terms of engaging youth in our projects and programs.
Yeah, so I'll talk to it a little bit first because, this is just some personal stories that that's kind of in and out of my personal life as well, personal and professional life, I would say. So first and foremost, youth engagement is important to me as a person, not just in the professional, but in the personal life as well, because the first example I have to bring up is volunteering with Big Brothers and Big Sisters of Canada. So outside of my professional life, I also do volunteer at Big Brothers and Big Sisters, where I am personally a mentor to another mentee myself. I feel like a lot of the times when I'm outside of the professional life, I don't work with youth too often, and I like to do so more often. So there's obviously many of those in the community that need our support, and some might not be, some aren't being reached to. So I volunteer on my time to kind of make sure that I also engage with youth outside of that to ensure that, I'm helping the community out. So I volunteer with Big Brothers Big Sisters. I have a personal mentee myself, and then we continue our engagement that way, so that we, the field still feels like they're part of the community and they're doing things in a group setting. My second example is youth camper to present day lifeguard. So back when I was younger, I worked as a camp counselor. And a lot of times when I was a camp counselor, I worked with various youth in a camp setting. And I actually was a mentor to a lot of these people, even though I didn't really see it back then. And whenever nowadays, I actually bumped into one of my campers back then, working as a lifeguard. And he told me all about his process about being a lifeguard and how that camp setting kind of like encouraged him to, be something to help out the community. So he became a lifeguard because he loves swimming. And this is something he was passionate about, and he was inspired to help others as well. So these are just some personal examples that I feel like I wanted to share from my personal experiences, and how youth engagement really, helps these youth become, better or become, encourage them, because sometimes these some of the at-risk youth or marginalized youth don't have that, opportunity, or don't have that space to, hear what they want to, hear like these positive encouragement, feelings and stuff like that. So yeah, this is just some of the personal stories. I'll pass it to Victor about his experiences and success stories.
Yes, thank you, Kevin. As a youth worker, I did lots of pre-employment support and career counseling for newcomer youth. And many newcomer youth, they experience a difficulty in landing their first kind of like part-time job, or figuring out what their career path will be. So the youth engagement and the opportunities we provide at the agency actually prepare them for the Canadian kind of like workforce and also the different industries they are interested in. And I have received numerous feedbacks and also follow-ups from parents and youth in terms of how the experience they received from youth programming and projects kind of like helped them get their first job. Sometimes like it starts with something really small, but because they have transferable skills that they developed through the youth programs here, they are able to kind of present themselves in the professional fields. And last but not least, I want to talk about the youth arts engagement, because right now, so arts actually play a vital point in terms of improving community participation and exploring creative skills. So I personally try to amplify youth voices through art, because I value art as not just as a method in terms of being creative. It's also a way for youth to communicate with each other and communicate with the world. So many youth, they found, kind of themselves, and they are able to express themselves and even tell the stories through arts. So I did programs in particularly in theater, which is very kind of like a unique way for especially newcomer youth to tell them stories and to present themselves, especially when they don't really see people like them or bodies like them to be on stage, to be featured in those storytelling methods. So what are the benefits of youth engagement to us? And so the first is definitely learning together. I personally receive lots of kind of new perspectives from youth every time when I deliver a program. And sometimes we also collaborate with youth for youth programming. For example, we have youth who are really good at basketball, so we include them in our basketball programming. And like the project I was overseeing is a kind of like a play that is written by a youth. So we got the support and kind of like the skills from a diverse community of youth, and they can come together to build a program, to develop a program with us. And in the meantime, they can develop their leadership skills as well. The second benefit is about meeting needs. As we all know, youth, they need volunteer hours, and they need that community engagement and opportunities for them to develop their skills. So this kind of community learning opportunity will definitely help them for their future career, for their college or university applications. And it can bring a greater social impact as well. And last but not least, youth engagement brings us community collaborations. And because of youth, we are able to reach to a wider community, and we can actually approach people that sometimes we were not able to approach in the past. And sometimes like the youth can actually bring us to their parents. Like, for example, it's very essential for us to reach to like newcomers in terms of assisting with them in the integration process. And sometimes we reach out to those clients by kind of like interacting with their children, the youth first. And because of the youth, like we are able to build the reputation for our agency as well through the word of mouth. More youth and other members of the community are able to recognize us and come to us for services and support.
Perfect. Thank you, Victor. So now we're going to talk a little bit about what we do at the Center for Immigrant and Community Services. Now we know a little bit more about why youth engagement is important and what are the benefits of it. We also want to explain, what we do first, and then we can go into other points from there. So let's watch a quick video. I do have closed captions for this about quick introductions, so I don't need to speak as much as to what we do at the Immigrant Youth Center. So just as a quick explanation, so we're part of Victor and I are part of the Center for Immigrant and Community Services, but we also have our branch of the youth team. We also have a separate location called the Immigrant Youth Center, where most of our youth services take place. And that's also where that's our one standalone youth location as well. So here's a quick video to kind of explain it. I just want to make sure our share sound option is on. Perfect. Lovely. Now press play.
Hey everyone, welcome to the Immigrant Youth Center. My name is Kevin, Youth Program Coordinator at IYC, and I'm here today to introduce you to our facilities. Let's go. At IYC, we have a variety of rooms for you to enjoy, relax, and learn in. For example, we have the studio room, training room, and classroom where a variety of programs and meetings are hosted. On top of that, we also have programming space at our Immigrant Resource Center located in Scarborough. In terms of equipment, not only do we have a full studio space for you to use, but we also have a big green screen and lights for you to enhance your perfect shot. Now that you know about our rooms, let's talk more about the services that we offer here. We at IYC serve youth ages 6 to 24 years old, from pre-employment and academic support to recreational activities, as well as mental health and wellness programs. We have plenty of activities and programs for you to enjoy and learn. Not only do we have programs, but we also have opportunities for you to grow. This includes the ability to book our space, volunteering opportunities, as well as ways to collaborate with us to run your special project. And that's it for today, everyone. I hope you got a good outlook as to how we operate here at IYC. If you want to find out more, feel free to contact us. We look forward to having you here.
So that's just a small video. I'm just gonna go back to our presentation. So that's just our small video to introduce our services, just a little bit about our space as well. Now let's go into what we do and stuff like that. I'll just dive a little bit into it. So CICS, our commitment is to ensure that we are committed to providing our clients with equal access to services that meet their individual needs. So a lot of times, not just with youth, but a lot of the newcomers that approach us need to have specific needs that they have that they need to adapt to Canada. So we are committed to ensuring those needs are met. Sorry. Our vision is to fully integrate newcomers who participate in and contribute to all spheres of Canadian society. And then our mission is to empower newcomers in settling and integrating as contributing members of Canadian society through diverse, professional, and innovative services. So not only do we want to encourage newcomers to ensure that they settle properly here and everything's good to go, but we also want to ensure that they become active members around Canadian society, which also ties into our topic about youth engagement, because a lot of times we have newcomer youth that are looking for new opportunities to grow. So for example, they may want to learn new skills like first aid so that they can potentially become a potential lifeguard, for example, or get first aid training for their own workplaces and stuff like that. Moving on to our CICS locations. So at CICS, if you're not familiar with us already, we have 8 different locations around the GTA. Some of the highlight locations is our Immigrant Youth Center. So this is our standalone location at the Markham. It's just located off of Highway 7 McCowan across from Markham Mall. And this location is great. There's usually lots of traffic. A lot of youth and newcomer families are familiar with our location already. As you can see, all the arts on the walls that you can see in the video are actually done by youth themselves. So our center and our guest motto, I would say, really ties into what you saw in the video, and it's to grow together. So our slogan or motto, I would say, is together we grow. So not only do youth work with the staff members, but we also encourage we also learn to learn from the youth as well, so that we can also, develop together as a community. And our other locations that we have, our youth service locations, include the Immigrant Resource Center, as you saw from the video, that's located in Scarborough. That's our head office, as well as the CICS New Market location, located on 130 Moolak Drive, just the north, because we find a lot of newcomers are settling down there, and we see the need for us to open a center there. And that's actually our newest location that we provide youth services. Perfect. And then in terms of program highlights, I'm not going to go through all our services that we offer, because this session will be way too long if that's the case. But some highlights sessions include the ICANN Youth Council. I'll talk a little bit more about that, because a lot of the youth engagement that we do actually comes from this council. So the ICANN Youth Council is basically a student council started by newcomer youth who are looking forward to enhance community programs. The second highlight program is our volunteering program. So we have a lot of volunteer programs for youth to participate in. So for example, we actually have a big blackboard art. I'm not sure if you guys saw in the video, if it was clearly pointed out, but we have a huge blackboard in the back where youth actually design that every, I would say, season of the year. And they do all the work, for example, not only designing it, but they also draw and make sure, the old one gets taken down, all that stuff. It's all youth-led, and that's, of course, for volunteer hours and all that stuff. Our third highlight program is March Break and Summer Camp programs. So a lot of times what we do at the Immigrant Youth Center is we offer some programming and some recreational activities for the youth to enjoy while they're out of school. So actually this coming March Break, we're running a lot of great programs. So for example, at our Immigrant Resource Center and New Market Center, we're running just the typical summer camp you see that are ran by the City of Toronto or City of Markham, where a lot of people are just, a lot of kids are coming in to kind of enjoy recreational programming outside of their time at school. The fourth highlight program is academic support. So in the academic support program, we have a lot of youth normally asking us, hey, is there any free tutoring services, or is there any English learning services? Because they ask that because a lot of times when there are tutoring services out there in the community, it's often it's a costly program to kind of participate in, to kind of improve their grades or get some homework support in. So what we do at the Immigrant Youth Center is we actually get youth volunteers who are in the higher grade level, so it's like grade 12 or even sometimes university, to come in to support the youth who actually need that academic support to understand, what their homework says or how to study for a test. So that's another highlight program that we have that we engage youth in. And then last but not least is our recreational services. So actually, I'd like to point this picture down here. It's actually the Markham Cycles program that we just took over at CICS. We offer a variety of recreational services, including the some basketball program, as Victor mentioned, or as for example, this program down here is the cycling program that is very popular amongst youth, because a lot of the times they are looking for something to do during the summertime. And what we do is we actually lend bikes to them in the summertime for them to not only just to learn the biking routes around the community, but also learn a bit about how to fix a bike, or for example, like how to ensure bike safety on the road, right? That's also a very important topic to learn. So as I mentioned, our highlight volunteer program is ICANN. So ICANN stands for the IYC, so Immigrant Youth Center Community Action Network. So this council represents youth voices and aids newcomer integration, plans events raises awareness on multiculturalism, and creates youth volunteer opportunities. So ICANN was started quite a while ago. I can't give you the exact number of years. I would say since the start of our Immigrant Youth Center 15 years ago, where we continuously have youth that are looking to not only gain volunteer opportunities, that wasn't their main goal, but also to ensure that they can run a new programming for the youth around their networks and community so that they can actually plan and integrate these programs that are effective at meeting all the needs that are around the community. This also develops through leadership and team development because in ICANN, the community offers opportunities for leadership and team skills development. So not only is the council, just a bunch of youth coming together to meet together, but that oftentimes they have a leadership group as well. So in this council, we have a president, a vice president. They also have a treasurer to plan their spending. So not only are they learning to plan programs, but they also have led by some of our youth team staff members. A lot of times ICANN also ICANN members can develop some useful life skills as well in return. So how to plan a budget to actually integrate these programs, because a lot of times programs do have some cost to them because they have to either buy some snacks or buy some program materials for their programs, right? So this does build some skills for not only themselves, but the overall community as well. Members are committed for an academic year with recruitment in May or June through an application and interview. So we don't just take anyone, we make sure that youth that are in this council are strong leaders in the community and are actually looking to improve the wider community network as well. So as you can see from the right side there, this is a youth-led, youth-designed, and youth-managed council with, of course, guidance from youth workers from our organization. So if you're looking to start something, I would say starting a youth council is great from your organization, because a lot of times, once you have a set amount of youth, you'll have a reputation to build up, and eventually you'll have a great community, great youth council started up, so that, again, the youth engagement is more effective that way. So let's talk a bit about more. So with that being said, let's bring some key pieces to youth engagement at CICS to your attention. So community needs assessment, what are youth interested in your community from a local context? Because as I mentioned, a lot of youth are different, right? We can't have a single lens as to how a youth operates, right? Many of the youth have different needs that need to be met. And when you're designing a youth program, there are 3 key questions to kind of ask yourself. The first question being, what do youth need and are interested in the most? Now, this question is important because you want to ensure you're doing something that interests the youth. So for example, if the youth are interested in learning more about mechanical engineering, for example, right? Or STEM program, right? A science program. You wouldn't want to implement an academic program and to focus on tutoring, right? You want to make sure you want to plan a STEM program to meet the needs so that more youth join and are interested in actually learning something they want to learn, right? So that's why asking these youth these questions is an important one before starting the planning process. The second question to ask yourself is, how would you connect with youth both in person and virtually? So I would say this is more of a point and question to ask yourself more recently, because since we're in a post-pandemic era, past the COVID-19 era, we oftentimes meet during the pandemic time. I would say we met a lot of youth virtually. So nowadays, a lot of youth sometimes would like to prefer to meet virtually rather than in person because of their personal schedules, or depending on their financial situation, they may not be able to make it to our centers, right? So you want to ensure you have a planning to ensure that, if something doesn't work out, you want to make sure that you have an in-person strategy versus a virtual strategy as well. Obviously, there's pros and cons to both, but that is something you want to consider when planning a youth program. Thirdly, is how would you work together with the youth to make the decisions together? And how should service providers provide guidance to them? So as I mentioned in the ICANN, youth council position, there's a lot of times that you want to work together with the youth to make these programming decisions together. So a lot of times I would say in school, right, in the school setting, schools often have an academic planning for them, right? Schooling is a separate subject. It's not like a youth program or youth, engagement kind of focused thing, right? They're there to learn a certain subject, and academics are important. But now, outside of the school context, we want to make sure we're working with youth to make the decisions together, so that we're not ensuring that you can. So it ensures that we're not, doing something that might not benefit the youth, or we're not doing something that would potentially harm the youth as well. We got to be conscious, especially with newcomer youth and marginalized youth. They have experienced a lot in the past. You want to make sure we're not hitting certain triggers, for example, that might negatively impact the youth, right? So there's 3 key points. Now I'm going to pass it over here to kind of see how we answer these questions ourselves at the Immigrant Youth Center or at the SCS.
Thank you, Kevin. So to elaborate on how IYC answers those questions. So the first question, as mentioned by Kevin, is about how or what youth needs and are interested in the most. This question that is really specific for youth service, especially when we involve caretakers. Sometimes, caretakers or parents, they really know or want to identify what youth needs, but probably those kind of contents or subjects are not what youth are interested the most. So the balance is the key here. We evaluate based on what we hear and see on a daily basis, both from the youth themselves and as well as from school, from the community, from the caregivers. For example, at the IYC, homework help is often asked. Many newcomer youth, because they are really new to the kind of Canadian curriculum and also the classroom setting here, they definitely need lots of help on their homework. Or some people, if they are ESL, they need extra English support. So we recruit and ask volunteers to help and assess how we can structure kind of the sessions together, and we invite volunteers to help us to help youth in terms of the academic kind of progress. But on the other hand, some youth, they apart from the academic help, they also want to have more extracurricular opportunities or recreational opportunities, and we should be able to provide that as well. So the balance is actually one of the keys when we assess the need and also the interest when it comes to youth service here. And the second question is, how would you connect with youth both in person and virtually? I think we all know how pandemic changed the way we engage with each other and how we engage with community. And offering both in-person and virtual session is actually about accessibility. We offer hybrid services to ensure we accommodate everyone in need of support, because we serve a broad range of community here. So sometimes in-person locations are not very accessible for families who are really far away from the locations of our agencies, or who are unable to send their youth or their kids to our set programs. In this case, those kind of hybrid models or virtual sessions are very beneficial for engaging more youth in the community. And we tend to offer popular sessions in a hybrid model. For example, the homework club, we have on-set homework support. We also have virtual support for homework too. So this is to make sure that we don't kind of leave out any youth in the community just because they are not able to access in-person services. And also, for example, the ICANN Student Council, they meet both virtually and in person to ensure that we don't miss a week of meeting, and to also because the busy schedules they may have, we want to make sure they can engage with the project, with the community, without interfering with their schoolwork. And last but not least, the question is about how would you work together with the youth to make decisions together? So how should service providers provide guidance? So to think about a model that is accommodating and inclusive in terms of youth voices, we should work with youth together. And youth at RIC, youth are given the general scope of the goals they should achieve, and then they are leading the planning and engagement of the program. So we basically offer a structure, a vision for the youth, but they are given the resources and autonomy in terms of how they want to implement and plan the programs and projects. And we have, for example, the ICANN Student Council, we have youth workers who act like the guides for the youth. And we provide space and resource for them to implement programs. But in the meantime, including the all the events, including the themes, the particular activities, dates, and promotion, everything is planned and implemented by the ICANN members. All the youth volunteers, they will coordinate by themselves, and they will come together to implement the programs.
So in terms of program development strategies and innovative approaches here, I'm just going to give a little bit more insights as to how we do our engagement procedures. So first and foremost is designing programming that youth can take the lead and using the resources they have. So as mentioned, I think a lot of times now in our webinar, is to make sure that youth are taking the lead to initiate most of these volunteering programs that they're doing, or in the youth councils that they're doing, because we want to make sure that they are the ones learning from these skills. And again, they are the ones implementing the programming to ensure that we meet the needs that are required out there, right? So having some way to kind of have that mechanism into your programming is it's sometimes hard, because sometimes we see it in a way where, as working adults or professional or in a professional setting, we want to make sure everything's done correctly, right? So there's many ways to do that, to have youth take the lead, but I hope some of the examples we gave at CSCS can help you, give some more ideas to how youth can take the lead. The second point is think of something youth like to do and are interested in. And never implement something that they are disinterested in and not engaged in. Because if we don't do that, most of the time they're either A, won't have youth joining, or B, it actually even pushes away youth and they wouldn't be encouraged to join any of our programs anymore. Because once they have a program, a few experiences that they're like, hey, this is not something I want to do. This is something I'd like to go somewhere else for, or not. Or even, worse, they might not even engage in other community programs anymore based on some experiences they might have. So think of something like perhaps maybe make a quiz out there to all your clients, being like, hey, what is something that you guys like to do, so that we can, meet in the middle perhaps. Because sometimes youth may say like, oh, I love something, youth like to do it nowadays is video games, right? That's oftentimes a very popular hobby that they have. So so you can think, where can we meet in the middle so that you are also learning something in our programming, but we're also doing that gaming aspect of it. That's something I can't really have an answer for you at the moment because, again, every organization serves different youth in different contexts. But again, highly suggested to make sure there's something in your programming that the youth like to do. Thirdly, is connecting through social media works for planning because sometimes emails and Zoom calls are effective in most cases. For example, in our webinars, I would say connecting through social media is a great way to connect with youth as well. I believe most of our organizations in this call do have a social media that they engage with in the community, but are we actually using it effectively is another question, right? For example, at our CSCS youth team, we actually have a Discord channel. So for those who don't know what Discord is it's a platform. It started off as a gaming platform where youth would connect in it. It's mostly used by youth, I would say. And they would use it to kind of use it for gaming. But nowadays, it's actually used as another Instagram or as another Facebook, where it's a chance for them to connect and meet friends through there or connect with others in the community in a specific channel. So I encourage people to check out Discord as well and perhaps start one for your own organization because we find it's a very effective way to connect with youth around a community and to plan a lot of things. A lot of times when youth are asking like, hey, can we talk about something through Discord, right? A lot of times youth are asking for more social media apps that they use more instead of using the regular emails or Zoom calls because youth don't really check emails and sometimes it's hard to communicate with them, right? So I encourage organizations to explore some of the more social medias out there to ensure that you're using the ones that youth use or clients use in general. The fourth point is emphasizing volunteer hours in your programming because this kind of not only motivates youth to kind of join a program, but also gives them an incentive as to joining the program, right? A lot of times youth are looking to complete their volunteer hours for school, which is 40 hours for high school to graduate. And there's a lot of organizations doing volunteer programs out there, but they might not be suitable for the youth to kind of join and volunteer for. And which is why I encourage all organizations to also emphasize that, hey, you're joining this program, but you're also contributing to the community in some way, shape, or form to earn these volunteer hours. So not only are you learning something here, but you're also earning volunteer hours for your time here. And so you're not doing it just for, quote unquote, nothing. They might think it's nothing sometimes, right? So this is something that works for our organization. I'm just sharing it today. Perhaps this is something you want to do as well. My last point is appreciate the youth with a gathering at the end of each project. This is something I believe this is great to do because a lot of times when youth, we complete a volunteer program, let's say our Blackboard Art, as I mentioned earlier, or the ICANN Youth Council, we always have I would say, end of the year party or kind of something incentive to give them so that they know the youth are appreciated for their time here or volunteering time here, right? So if we feel like this is a way to encourage youth to come back and to know that they are appreciated for what they do here. So yeah, I encourage organizations, if you have some way, shape, or form or resources to kind of do like an end of year volunteer party for your youth or do like a small gathering at the end of the year to use some of the resources you have to engage the youth again, to kind of have like a social with the youth. It would be a great way to kind of engage with them and to ensure that they would come back the next time.
So I'm gonna talk briefly about youth activism because it's one of the focuses of my youth project and programming, and also youth activism or youth engaged activism is something have been passionate about as well. The importance of engaging youth in social activism, has a long history for us to unpack, especially if we think about the origin of youth work in North America. it is initially introduced for society stabilization, but it's also important to acknowledge that because we know youth are the future of our society, of our community, to enact social change, we cannot leave out youth in the participation. But when we think about activism and activist works, they can come in different forms, and so does youth activist engagement. For me, it's very essential to include youth when it comes to activist awareness and also telling the stories of the marginalized communities. At RYC, because the majority of our patrons are newcomer youth, I tend to highlight their experiences and their voices in the context of immigrant stories or youth diaspora. We amplify youth voices and acknowledge their perspectives by equipping them with resources, practical tools, and opportunities for them to engage and grow. There are two programs I can share here as examples. One is a For the Voice project. For people who are not familiar with For the Voice, it's an arts-based methodology, firstly introduced by anthropologists in the research. So the idea is that researchers will give cameras to local communities and community members to take pictures in terms of documenting their lives and their perspectives on the community they are in. Then the researchers will collect those pictures together and kind of like whether they will do an exhibition or they will sit with community members to talk about the idea and the intentions behind those photographs. So I did a project with the youth in Scarborough as well as New York region, and I encouraged them to take pictures with their phones or their cameras, and as to document their lives and how they see their communities. And some of them present me some really fascinating pictures that are often overlooked by adults or by the service providers. And the other one is the arts event for National Day for Truth and Reconciliation. It is very rare, but yet crucial for us to have a dialogue between Indigenous justice and immigrant, and to include newcomer youth, in the conversation in terms of how we can build solidarity with Indigenous community. I introduced this event as a way for newcomer youth to come and practice some really fun and traditional Indigenous art, and then we talk about the history and the social justice component in terms of like what it means to us to honor and to commemorate National Day for Truth and Reconciliation. And those kind of like programs and events actually highlighted the youth effort and advocacy in social activism. And I tend to learn a lot from youth in terms of how they perceive those social justice subjects. And there's a process of knowledge making and sharing in those kind of like events and programs. And ultimately, we aim to build kind of like a cohort for community justice and solidarity. We are engaging youth in social activism. And this is something we should keep in mind in the future, in terms of if we want to innovate the way we practice activism, we can definitely reach out to youth for new ideas and some novel engagements as well. Yeah,
Okay,
so
sorry,
okay.
Victor. Just briefly before your portion. Yeah, so okay, so now enough of us talking. I believe we spoke enough for basically an hour straight. So we want to include you guys in the conversation as to based on what you learned here. Victor's going to explain the discussion activity. I'm about to break everyone into breakout rooms. But for those who require ASL, just as a precursor before we explain the activity, I do want to acknowledge that if there's anyone who needs ASL interpretation, please do not join the breakout room when I put everyone into breakout rooms, just so we can assign our ASL interpreters into your room to help you engage with other members in our call. Okay, so I'm going to let Victor explain our quick activity.
Thank you, Kevin. So it's actually very simple. So you will be split into breakout rooms and have like 5 minutes to quickly design your own youth group program. Just don't give yourself any restrictions or limit. Just like, the sky basically is the limit. Your goal is to use what you learned and design a program to maximize youth engagement. And we also encourage you to think about how the youth engagement is kind of like connected with your current work and how it can be delivered in the existing setting of your agency. And after discussion, please appoint someone from your group to speak. We will see if we can have 1 or 2 groups to share the programs, and in terms of like, depending on the time we have. And also we encourage you to be as specific as you can. And during the sharing, please try to share the main points and maybe the kind of like a really general and kind of like a general structure of the program you want to initiate.
So again, we're not looking for something very in-depth. We just want to get an idea as to, based on what we learned today, how would you implement a youth group program, and what are things that's main things you would pay attention to in planning that. So again, please appoint someone to speak. I'm about to open the breakout rooms. Please join those breakout rooms when you can. And then if you require ASL interpretation, please stay in the main room. We'll assign you to a separate one. And it's like everyone is out now. Perfect. Okay, thank you everyone for participating. I apologize, 5 minutes is a little bit short, but we want to make sure we're aware of the time. I saw a lot of people are engaged and are talking about what they would plan for their own youth program. So I'm just going to call on a few people to kind of share about what they talked about in their session, if anything kind of came up, and perhaps we can you have a little bit discussion about that. So first group I'm going to call on is group number 5. So room 5 with Clement, Elizabeth, Evelyn, Arshdeep, Kim, and Olga. Is there anyone who would like to share from that group about what you guys talked about in that group? Opening the floor.
Sorry, I was on mute.
Yeah, no worries, Kim.
We didn't get very far, but we have something. So it's a program. It's going to be employment workshops that are offered to immigrants and newcomers, mainly refugee claimants and Ukrainians. Mm-hmm. The age category would be 13 to 24. Mm-hmm. And we would do it after school from 4 to 6. And that's all we got.
Yeah, no worries. And that's actually more details than I was asking for, really. That's great that, youth employment workshop, that's perfect. Now, I think that's a good starting point where you would think like, hey, this is youth pre-employment is something a lot of people are looking for. And the next steps, I would say, just some of the feedback I can think of off the top of my head is think of how you would include youth into, what they're learning or what specific topics you would cover. I think that would be the next steps after planning that. Of course, again, I wasn't asking anything specific, but I think that's a great start. Youth pre-employment programs is a good topic to cover. Thank you, Group 5.
Yeah, well, since you mentioned it just before you go, if you were thinking of including the youth and how to have them engaged, perhaps we could do a pre-assessment or survey to decide what are their general likes and what their needs are, and just get an opinion of what type of work, the area, what kind of experience they have. So do surveys for the ones that are going to be joining the program.
Lovely. Sounds good. Thank you, Kim. Thank you for sharing. Okay, we have time for just another 2 groups to share. So I'm gonna pick randomly. Let's say group 9. So that's with Lisa, Maria, Vicky, Samhal, and Benaya. I apologize if I pronounce your name wrong. Is there a speaker from that group that would like to share what you guys discussed?
I will just say that we did not use our time wisely.
That's fine.
Let me just say that we did not use our time wisely. We were actually just starting to share the kinds of youth programming each of our agencies provide. And one thing they did say, youth-led, peer-led was very important in that, but we did not come up with something specific. Sorry, but we're being honest.
Okay. That's okay. And yeah, so let's hear a little bit more about that. It's okay if you didn't talk about the designing your own youth program. I want to hear a little bit more about what you guys discussed and what kind of program sharings you guys did from your organizations. You can maybe share it to the group and maybe, yeah.
One participant, it was employment programming that they work with their employment group at their agency, and then they do make sure that the youth are connected to that program. And again, they have, we talked about programming that youth is helping youth, but I really don't have notes for anything specific because, as I said, we didn't use our time wisely. Apologies.
No worries. Thank you, Vicky, for sharing. Yeah, that's 100% fine. I wasn't planning for anything great. I was fine with people just kind of interacting with each other too, to kind of, maybe spark a discussion, right? Thank you for sharing, Vicky, and being very honest. Okay, so in next group, I'd like to share, maybe we can have someone from last group is group number 3. So someone from room 3 will be Neil, Nathan, Madison, Ariana, Haley, Daria, and Alicia. Apologize for the names again. Anyone from your group who would like to share about what you talked about your group? Doesn't have to be the topic itself. Again, a very open breakout room discussion, but is there something you'd like to share that was brought up in your conversation? Anything? You can even type in the chat. I can read it out. Oh, yes, someone was talking.
Yes. So to piggyback on the other group, we also just kind of discussed about during the intake session, we would figure out what their interests are. So if their interest was like STEM activities, then maybe we would communicate with them and see what they want. So maybe if it's like a robotics group, then we can figure that out, and that could be youth-led, and they can kind of create their own ideas and everything, and then the youth workers can just be there to assist and to just resolve any issues that they need.
Great. Yeah, sounds good. Thank you, Haley, for sharing. Yes, and definitely, I guess the main message, I'm glad everyone got the main message of our program, of our webinar today, is to ensure youth have the voice to do what they enjoy in, and kind of have us as like the side leadership to kind of ensure that it's going on the right path. Yeah, so I think that's great. Thank you, Haley, for sharing. Yeah, so lucky for the other groups, I'm not asking you to share to talk in the other to talk to the rest of the group, just for the interest of time. And I believe some people may or may not have some questions, so I do want to leave the floor to some closing remarks and contact information. So based on what I'm gonna slow down for ASL interpreters, my bad. So just to stay in touch with us, here's our contact information. So again, my work email is kevin.lee@ciccscanada.com. If you have any questions about maybe the youth council topic, I know some organizations are looking to amplify their own youth programs and seeing how it works out. And if you want some feedback, feel free to keep in touch with myself and Victor. Victor's email is victorzhang.wallflower@gmail.com. He's open to answering your questions about youth activism as well, if required. Okay, so these are contact information. Feel free you can get it from Ocasio as well, or I can connect with you further as well later on. Yes, I will actually share those in the chat box just so everyone can copy those down. Perfect. And then just last but not least, we'd like to leave the floor for a Q&A period before we end. We might have a few minutes to get back to you, everyone here, but is there any questions you would like to ask us about how we do our youth programs, or any feedback we can give in today's webinar session? Feel free to put in a chat box, or you can raise your hand. Either way works. Leave it maybe a minute or two to people to leave questions.
Maybe meanwhile, people prepare their question. I would like to let everyone know that I will send all presentation and the recording from today's session by email after the session. And please feel free. I will also like to do a survey, not only regarding today's session. When you end the webinar, you will have pop-up screen with the survey question regarding today's webinar. Please leave your comment and let us know how we did. As well as I will forward you a survey. I would like to hear from you what are the events you would like us to do in person, online in the future for youth, newcomer youth development. I would appreciate if you take your 2-minute time, fill that survey out. It would be very helpful, because this webinar also a result of feedback from our course participant, and this is how we develop all our professional development trainings.
So there is a question in the chat box. So Andrea asked, the video showed you have a green screen room for youth to use. My question is, what type of programs do you offer for youth to use a green screen room? So for a green screen room, it was primarily built as a camera studio for youth to do some video editing sessions. So back, I think, numerous times throughout the years, we've ran multiple programs that involve the green screen, which the most recent one actually includes the a video Christmas photo taking session, I would say, where we had a community event for just for families and youth to come in to do some programming. It was a event planned by our youth council, the ICANN members, and what happened was we used the green screen room for youth to essentially help take Christmas photos for families. And what happened beforehand was we would have a guest speaker come in to kind of talk about how to take an effective photo, how the photo printer works. So we actually trained youth to actually help out the community more through this kind of perspective. In the past, we also had some video editing sessions. We used the green screen for the youth to make their own projects, to kind of have their own little fun into it as well. So yeah, I hope that answered your question. Thank you, Tina, for your positive comments. I appreciate it. And just to kind of put it out there, I hope this is from just kind of piggybacking off of Tarana. I hope the information Victor and I gave today was informative, even if it's something that you new already. This is something you already do. I hope you learn at least 1 point from our presentation, and hope nothing was just like, oh, I knew that already, I knew everything already, right? I hope this actually informed you to kind of bring back to your own organizations to, again, continue engaging with youth and to make sure that we help them out, in what we do. So I guess people are leaving gratitude comments. So again, thank you for these positive comments. I'd just like to just end the session off by leaving our social media and website here. Let's give us a follow as to what we do and stuff like that. We would be happy to follow us on there. So yeah, again, Tarana is going to send out the presentation to you guys. So not too much of a worry to kind of copy everything down right now. But yeah, thank you for the great comments. And I guess I'll give it back to Tarana to really close it off.
Thank you, Kevin. Thank you so much, Victor. It's really a very great session, and thank you everyone for your feedback. I heard someone seems wanted to say something, or
yeah. So I saw 2 questions actually in the chat. So one person was asking about the social media platform Kevin mentioned that youth connect with each other, which I believe that's Discord, I think. And so Catherine asked a question about what are the trainings that the youth workers and facilities have for de-escalating potentially violent situations when we work with the youth. So de-escalation strategies and working with youth, at risk or in the kind of precarious situations. I think there are some trainings available, but Catherine, if you are looking into training specifically for de-escalation strategies with youth, I think you can check out Youth Rex. I'm gonna just type in the chat, which is a kind of a pioneer in terms of like youth programming and youth work in Ontario, in which they work with York University to introduce and implement trainings for youth work and people who work with youth specifically. And they did have lots of resources in terms of working with youth at risk and also de-escalating strategies where working with youth.
Mm-hmm. And just to add on top of Victor, if you do need more information, I think I can share it to you as well. We've done some training in the past to kind of handle how to handle these de-escalation situations, because sometimes it does happen, right? Especially in our recreational programming, we have seen youth where they're a bit more agitated because of what the session's about, or conflict that happens within the session. We've had some training in the past about that, so feel free to send me an email. I'm just going to drop it in the chat box again, Catherine, if you want to get some links to these trainings in the future. And also I saw one more question by Vivian. So recreational activities are one of the most requested services from youth. Does your facility have space for these events, or does IYC have other strategies for executing these events? Great question. So first and foremost, we do have again, our 3 facilities that we operate our youth services in. Our Immigrant Resource Center, I'm not sure if you caught it in the video, actually has a gym space for these recreational activities. So we actually have a full basketball court, and we put some badminton program up there as well. So that's a great space for any sports programs. When it comes to other space that we might need to use, it all comes with community collaboration. So we actually worked with City of Markham in the past as well, but we utilized their space in the community centers, and we had a community partnership with them where we rent certain spaces for other programmings that we see fit. So for example, in the future, now this is a big goal that I have in the future, coming from an aquatics background, as some of you may know, is to have a swimming program eventually implemented for newcomers to learn swimming and to be engaged in that aspect. I feel like it's a great life skill to learn. So that's something I look forward to doing in the future. But establishing that community kind of collaboration is the most important part to execute these strategies. And of course, you have to look at funding and stuff as well. But I believe just connecting with the wider community is also very important. Okay. And I hope that's answered everyone's questions. If you'd like to connect more, I believe we are just at time. feel free to email me anything. I'm happy to answer your questions. Yeah, I think that's all the questions. Thank you, Victor, for catching those. I'll hand it back to Tarana one more time.
Yes, thank you so much, Victor and Kevin. Thank you, really, Victor, catching those chat questions. Our time is off, but I would like to really say thank you to all participants. I am so happy and glad to see so much engagement. It means there's a more need for us to get together and maybe often. So I would like to thank you. I would like to thank our sign language interpreter, Sharon and Amina, being with us, assisting us today. I would like to thank my colleague, Hind, for her support and assistance. Thank you, everyone. See you soon. I wish you all good day today. Thank you.